42,000 casualties in World War II with a naval invasion of Germany and against Germany especially. These are stats which would be good against the Allies, and the Allies are much weaker than Germany. So insane stats. 42,000, and we cause about 4 million. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited to finally share this new country guide with you. It was requested quite a while ago, I must say. I have been working very hard on it, and I'm really satisfied with the results. Moreover, this time you will be getting 2 guides instead of 1, because in the upcoming weeks I will also release a fascist USA version of this guide, which will offer some incredible results, and it will be the perfect starting point to go for a full world conquest. Now, if that sounds interesting, then this is the right video for you. Now, before we start, let me just say a couple of things. This strategy is very consistent, but there is a little bit of RNG, and we will be using a couple of tricks to make the USA even more powerful. So make sure to follow the video very carefully. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask. You can do so in the comment section, but I would also recommend joining our Discord to meet our amazing community. Also, remember that I always upload the unedited version for all of my guides. You can find it in the description of the video, together with the focus and research priorities. Finally, if you have been following the channel and enjoying my content, please do not forget to like the video and subscribe. It will really help the channel grow faster, which means I will be able to dedicate more time to it and make even more content for you guys. Now that's really all for the introduction, so let's start with the initial setup for Democratic USA. Alright, let's start by using our free civilian factories. What we're going to do is we're going to build full infrastructures and then full military factories in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota and Louisiana. So you start with infrastructures and then you go with military factories in the same exact places. In terms of military production, we are going for 5 to infantry equipment, 3 to support equipment, 1 to TOD artillery, and then we add 1 for civilian trains, and we remove it from the basic small airframes. Something like this. Now, in terms of naval production, I always leave complete freedom to my viewers because I'm not a master of the Navy. But what I usually do is I build an infinite amount of cruisers and early destroyers. But I lower their priority to the minimum, together with all of the ships which require chromium. And I also decrease the amount of factories assigned to these ships. I bring them to the bottom and then I increase the dockyards assigned to the other ones to the maximum. To all of them except for the chromium ones. So only these 3 should be left at the bottom with 1 dockyard, everything else with 2 of them on infinite production with max dockyards. If you follow these, then the rest of the guide will make sense in terms of naval production. But if you want to do something different, you're entirely free to do so. Then what we're going to do is we're going to decommission the garrison and the National Guard divisions because we're not going to use them. And we're going to train the maximum amount of infantry divisions, which is 27, and to deploy them in Washington. We're also going to gather all of our divisions and we're going to change them all to infantry divisions. And then we're going to split them into 2 armies. With 1 marshal, the marshal is going to be Douglas MacArthur and the 2 generals will be Omar Bradley and Mark Clark. What we're going to do with these armies, we're going to change the motorization priority to maximum, we are going to make them execute aggressively battle plans, and then we're going to give them a fallback line from New York to Washington so they don't run out of supplies. And we're going to train them. Now, with the United States, since we will have an insanely powerful industry, I'm not going to shift-click on the training command. Shift-clicking it means they will only train until they are at regular, and then they will stop training. But I will just let them train forever, so we keep getting army experience from it. We're going to do the same exact thing for what concerns planes, so I usually select them from here. We don't care much about the carrier ones, but all the other ones, we're going to gather them all in the state of New England, I guess, or in New York, whatever, in this bigger airport. And then we're going to press on pilot exercises, again, not shift-clicking it, so we keep training them for air experience. Same exact thing again for the Navy. We're going to gather all of our navies into just one, the one which is already in here. and then we're going to assign them an admiral, and we're going to just train them forever. Now, and with this, we can consider our initial setup done. I always make a save when I'm done with my initial setup, just in case I don't need to do all this stuff again. And we can start with the early game of the United States, which is a bit boring, I must be honest with you. So we will not be doing a lot until World War II starts. But we need to prepare properly in order to be fully ready for World War II. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the first focus to complete. Until then, we can just look at the game, maybe pick researches from time to time. Okay, we completed our first focus, which very conveniently gave us 150 political power, which we're going to use right away to pick the financial expert. Minus 15% consumer good factories is huge with the United States, since we have a lot of factories. Alright, as we complete our second focus, we get another 150 political power, which we're going to use for the silent workhorse. In this way, we get a little bit more political power, which we will need later on. At the same time, from now on, we also need to use on cooldown small lobbying effort. This is what we are going to do in order to minimize the RNG related to the Congress. Technically, you don't need to use this on cooldown, but using it on cooldown makes it a bit easier to avoid bad RNG with the Congress. So it's a bit annoying, but from now on we need to keep an eye on this, and every 30 days we need to press on small lobbying effort. Meanwhile, you will get 3 military factories at some point, and we need to use them right away. So we're going to change the infantry equipment to 10, the support equipment to 5, towed artillery to 5, and we're going to add some anti-air. We're going to assign 2 factories to future factories to anti-air. So this is the suggested MIO priority for artillery. Okay, at some point you should get 3 dockyards if you followed my production. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to start making convoys, and we're also going to use this as a chance to start training the new ships that we built. Okay, at 25 political power, we are going to pick amend the budget to get more civilian factories, or better, less consumer good factories used. By the way, something I didn't mention is we are not adjusting trade for chromium because we don't care. We are going to do it later on when we need other resources as well. Okay, as we complete this focus, we get another huge amount of political power, which we're going to use right away to select our Army Offense Advisor. And then as soon as possible, the Night Operations Advisor. We need to wait for a couple of days for command power. Meanwhile, we're going to build infrastructures in all of the 80% provinces. For these ones. Okay, now we can also pick the Night Operations Advisor. Alright, first election. It's important that we vote for the Democrats, so 4 more years. Let's go for the New Deal. And from now on, we will also get some minor missions which will ask us to build some factories or infrastructure, civilian factories, dockyards and so on. We should always prioritize completing those missions. I will show you in a bit. Okay, see here we got our first mission, so accept it and then build a military factory in North Carolina. This will give us senators and representatives, which will help again keeping a large majority in the Congress. Now, when you get 3 military factories, you can increase the amount of factories dedicated to infantry equipment to 25. We can also pick the Relief of Command Spirit, very, very good for democracies. We're also going to start building military factories in all of the 100% provinces, and then in all of the 80% provinces, which will soon be 100%. And then whenever you do this, I always suggest you pay attention to the ones which were already being built and you prioritize them. Like this one is almost completed, so let's make it first. This one too, as long as they are being built, it's fine. The other ones, we don't really care about the order. Finally, there is one last thing that we're going to do now, and it is we're going to pick the Special Forces Doctrines for Marines. We have a lot of Navy experience. We're going to use it to unlock entirely the Marines Special Forces Doctrines. We go for the right branch twice, so we focus on naval invasions, not on jungle fighting and whatever. For what concerns infantry equipment, this is my suggested MIO priority. Okay, after we complete this focus, we need to pay attention to something. Because what we want to pick next is this one to get rid slowly get rid of the very, very bad debuffs we have as the United States, the Great Depression in particular. But we cannot pick it yet. We will be able to pick it on the 16th of March. So we'll need to wait until the 16th of March and then we're going to pick this one. So for now we pick no focus at all. And there we are, 16th of March, we can pick the focus, so let's go immediately for this one. What we are losing here is about 10 days, because 10 days remain stored, so we can use it on the next focus. But we waited for a bit longer, so we wasted, let's say, about 10 days. But it is absolutely worth it, because it's very important to get rid of the massive debuffs from the Great Depression as soon as possible. As you get new divisions, you can start assigning them to the 2 armies we already have. Then we are going to create a 3rd one only with infantry. Meanwhile, we keep picking the small lobbing effort for a bit longer, not much longer. We already have a majority which will probably last for the rest of the game, so we'll not have to worry about it anymore. We're going to pick just a couple more. Okay, when you get 3 military factories, it's time to change the production a little bit. And it is also time to start designing our new fighters. We're going to use basic small airframes and we're going to start with the fighter design. Now, one thing to notice is that the United States already have access to heavy machine guns from the beginning of the game. Unfortunately, they only have access to 2 heavy machine guns and not the 4 version of heavy machine guns. And the only 2 version of them is not better than 4 light machine guns. As you can see, here we get an air attack of 10 for a weight of 2, and here we get an air attack of 9 for a weight of 2.5. Although the production cost is slightly lower, I would recommend going for light machine guns instead of heavy machine guns. So what we're going to use is the usual design, which is this one. I suggest you click on auto upgrade and then we pick North American Aviation. We call this F1. And for what concerns CAS, I would recommend using this design here, again with auto upgrade and with the CAS designer. We're also going to start producing them. We're going to start with fighters and we're going to make 6. Then we're going to start producing CAS, 3 of them. And finally, we're going to add trucks to the production. 6 factories assigned. Which means we also need to take care of trade. We're going to adjust the trade by importing both rubber and chromium. Now at this point we're also going to stop using small lobbing effort. We should have a wide majority, so we shouldn't have to worry about it anymore, at least for quite a while. So we can forget about it for now. Okay, at 150 political power, we're going to pick the last advisor, and it is going to be the war industrialist. We're also going to start building military factories in all of the 100% provinces, and as before, we're going to prioritize the ones which were already being built. We're also taking this chance to train the new ships we made. We are going to force deploy all of the divisions which we are recruiting. We're going to use William Simpson for the new army. What we need to do at this point is we need to recruit another 9 infantry divisions. And then we're going to recruit 24 marine divisions. So 9 plus 24 marines. Okay, as soon as possible, we should pick again, amend the budget. It should be more or less when you have 25 or slightly more political power. So we're going to pick this again. Okay, another mission, always prioritize them. So munition plants in Arizona. Let's do it. If I can find Arizona, which should be somewhere here. Yeah, here. Right. And at 25 political power, we're also going to pick research grants. And we're going to pick the naval doctrines before we forget about them. I would suggest switching from base strike to fleet in being, but it is entirely up to you. And then what I do is I gradually unlock all of them. Now, as soon as we complete this research, it's time to design our new tanks. First of all, however, I would recommend picking the MIO, especially this one, the max speed one. As for the rest of the priority, I would recommend something like this. As for our tank, we're going to use my usual World War II design called the T1. These are the modules. We're going to use heavy machine guns, the wet ammunition storage, the howitzer, the radio. We're going to use the Christie suspension here. It's very important for the speed. And then we're going for a value of 9 in engine and 2 in armor for a total speed of around 8 kilometers per hour. This is a very, very solid design. It will carry us through World War II. Now we also need to start producing it with Chrysler, of course. We give it the lowest priority, we assign to it all of the future factories, and we're also going to decrease the production of infantry equipment to 15, so that we start already producing our T1. Now, once again, we want to pick this focus to completely get rid of the Great Depression, but we need to wait for it. We will be able to pick it on the 31st of December, so we are going to need to wait until the 31st of December before picking this focus. Now, next, there is a tricky part of the run. Let's see what happens, because this is the most RNG heavy part of the run. And it's going to happen after the Anschluss. Okay, the Anschluss happened right now. Pause the game immediately, because it's very important at this point that you have 25% word tension. First of all, let me talk about why we need the word tension to be at 25%. The reason is that with the word tension at 25%, we can pick radio propaganda, which we're going to do immediately. And with radio propaganda, we have 30% war support, which in return means that we can pick the giant wakes, which will get us rid of civilian economy, or better, will give us a civilian economy, meaning we will get rid of undisturbed isolation, which is, as you can see, horrible, absolutely horrible. So it's great to get rid of these this early into the run. For that to happen, however, we need a 25% word tension. Sometimes the word tension is not at 25%, and what I used to do before the last DLC is the United States had a guarantee on all of the South American countries. I would simply remove the guarantee from Brazil. That would increase automatically the word tension above 25%, and we would be totally fine. Unfortunately, now, since we are no longer guaranteeing anyone, there is no way that I know of for us to increase the word tension, which means there is nothing we can do about it. If the word tension is at 24% instead of 25%, unfortunately, you need to play this part of the run a bit differently. The instructions are in the description, in the sense that instead of picking the giant wakes, when the time comes, you will pick the next few focuses, and you will go back to the giant wakes a bit later into the run. It's still fine. This is more optimal, of course. So if you get 25% word tension, go for war propaganda immediately. Radio propaganda immediately, and then the giant wakes. By the way, you need to do it faster, because word tension automatically gradually goes down. So if you miss it, if you miss the timing, even if you had 25%, you might not be able to pick radio propaganda. Okay, we completed the focus, and as you can see, now we can pick the giant wakes. We cannot. Why can we not? Okay, interestingly enough, I cannot pick the giant wakes, despite having 30% war support, which is usually enough. Here it says more than 30%, but usually 30% or more is enough. So what we pick instead is air war plan divisions. But again, you can find this in the description of the video as well. Now, when you get free civilian factories, you're going to need to build some infrastructures and military factories. And what we're going to do is we're going to build them in South Carolina, Indiana, Missouri, Texas, California, Oklahoma, and Mississippi. And then, of course, we need to do the same thing with military factories exactly in the same places. And for what concerns the fighter MIO, I would suggest this priority here. Yeah, probably we didn't have a good combination of word tension and word support, so we needed slightly more word tension in this run. Again, the word tension is shown as 24-25, but it's not exactly 24-25. So in the lucky runs, you will have slightly more than 30%, and you can pick the giant wakes. In the unlucky runs, you will either not be able to pick it because you don't get to 30%, or you will have a low 30%. And still not be able to pick it. Now, after building infrastructures and military factories, what we're going to do is we're going to design our armored divisions. So what we're going to do in terms of the template is something like this. We go for a combat width of 35, which is optimal. Now, this is very, very expensive in terms of army experience, but luckily we have enough, so we don't care. Another thing we're going to do here is we're going to use pioneers and not the regular engineer company, because pioneers are better with all of the doctrines unlocked. And then later on we're also going to add the flame tanks, but that's not something to worry about for now. So this is the armored division template that we're going to use. We're going to save it, and we're going to start recruiting 12 of them. And now we would be able to pick the giant wakes. See, probably because something happened. But Spain is not down yet. But see, now we got a high 25%, which probably increased our war support to a high 30%. And it means we could pick the giant wakes. I did want to show you the alternative version, but I think it's probably better to pick the giant wakes at this point. Because it's only 17 days. Of which we saved 10, so it's only 7 days. It is worth it. Okay, so we go for the giant wakes at this point, and I will show you the normal outcome of the run when you get a fairly lucky run, let's say. And for motorized, I would suggest the following MIO priority. Okay, as soon as you complete this focus, assuming that you were able to pick it, and you have 150 political power, you can change from civilian economy to partial mobilization. This is amazing because basically in one focus we switch from undisturbed economy to partial mobilization, which is of course much better. For the army of Marines, I usually use Maurice Rose. And now we need to build a civilian factory in Wyoming. Assuming that I can find it. Look at me. Spotted immediately. That means when you can find Wyoming on the map immediately, it means you have been playing as the United States a bit too much. Now this is a fairly quiet and boring part of the run. There isn't much that we can do other than assigning the new divisions and constantly adjusting trade in a very fun way. Okay, when you get 3 civilian factories, we're going to build military factories in all of the 100% provinces. We will need actually to wait for a little bit longer because we are almost done with concentrated industry. So quite soon we'll be able to build more military factories in all of the 100% provinces. But as you can see, we have a couple more here that we can use for now. And then we go back to adjusting trade, which is what we will be doing for the next few months. However, at this point we can also pick amend the budget and research grants, so let's do it. Now this is why I hate free trade, because you constantly need to adjust trade and import. Constantly, you spend more time on this tab than on doing anything else in the game. If there was a way in the game to automatically import resources that you need, like an option up here that you click and you automatically import everything you need, that would be quite cool. I do see the advantages of free trade. The buffs are amazing, but that's quite annoying to do. Okay, we completed concentrated industry, which means we can now build more military factories in all of the 100% provinces. And let's also wait one more day so we unlock the flame tanks. As we complete this research, it is time to design and produce flame tanks. Okay, so for flame tanks, what I like to use is this design. We have the fuel drums to increase the fuel capacity on our armored divisions, which is great. We have the lightest possible turret to make it as cheap as possible. Production cost of 8 is actually fairly expensive, but it's okay. And then we also added the dozer blade simply because this module is free. You can also remove it entirely, but the production cost is fairly low. And one more in entrenchment can be useful. You never know. It's one of the few stats which are not decreased by it being a flame tank. If you feel like you want to make it cheaper, you can remove this one. We want to produce 5 of them, and we're going to take them away from our T1 production. Okay, as soon as we complete this focus, we can also pick the General Motors concern. Here we go, for even extra factory output. Which is quite amazing because considering free trade, considering everything, our factory output is quite insane. Look at this, plus 84% factory output. It's quite crazy. Now we're basically only waiting for our planes, and in the meantime you will spend your days and weeks and life picking stupid trade resources. As soon as we complete the improved small airframe, it's time to design our F2 and C2 and start producing them. I suggest you do it from the ones you already have in here, so you will spend a little bit less to make them. Here is my usual insanely good F2 design. As for what concerns the C2, we're going to use this very balanced design, so we don't use the self-sealing fuel tanks to save on rubber. Instead, we use the dive brakes, which are just as good or almost just as good. But that's not all. We're also going to start deploying everything, or to force deploy everything, because we want to adjust our divisions. We want to have them on the field. So for the tank army, we're going to use George Patton. Make sure that they have the highest motorization priority. They execute battle plans aggressively. And then we need to make some adjustments to our divisions. For what concerns the infantry divisions, we are just going to add the support anti-air, and that's it. For what concerns tanks, we are just going to add the medium flame tank company, and that's it. For what concerns marines, we need to make quite a few changes. So this is the final marine brigade. Now this is a very, very good template, so these marines can push for us even after disembarking. This is actually a very, very strong combat division. It's expensive, but we can afford it. And now we're going to make some changes in terms of production. We're going to decrease the production of trucks to 5, and we're going to increase the production of artillery to 25. The production of C2 to 15. T1, we're going to upgrade it, first of all. So upgrade the MIO, I mean. And then we're going to reduce the production to 25. And everything else we have, we assign to our F2 fighters. We decrease the priority to the minimum, and then we assign all the remaining factories to them. And we will need to adjust trade, of course, and we're going to deploy all planes. We should have a fair amount of them, and we're going to train them too. We're almost ready for some action, boys. Almost ready. Now, in terms of CAS MIO, I would suggest this priority. Okay, World War II is finally starting, which means finally we will get some action, but not just yet, in the sense that, unfortunately, as the United States, we are not allowed to join the Allies until the war tension is at 100%. For now, we will need to prepare, but we cannot join the war just yet. Now, first of all, we're going to use some of this nice political power that we have here by picking the superior firepower expert, the infantry expert, the tactical bombing expert, and the army logistics expert. We're also going to use some of our experiences in here, and we're going to do that first of all by picking the smoke and fire spirit and suppressive barrage tactic. And we're also going to pick, well, naval refitting yards. I like this one, but not particularly important. Aircrew surveys and centralized control, a lot more important. We're going to start picking our air doctrines, and we can pick already a decent amount of them. And we can also pick some of the naval doctrines, of course, as well as some of the land doctrines. Now we can also make sure that our army has the maximum motorization priority, the aggressive battle plans, and we can start assigning them all of the traits that we have available. Particularly important is the Panzer expert for him. We can also give him suppressive barrage. And now we're going to make some changes to the training mode, in the sense that from now on we want to shift click and not to train them forever anymore, but just as long as it is necessary. Going to do the same thing with the Navy and shift click on train for all planes as well. And we're also going to start using a small lobbying effort again, because as you can see, we're struggling a bit with the majority in the Congress at the moment. Okay, when you get free civilian factories, you can just build infrastructures and then military factories in all of the 60% or plus provinces. Now, at this point, if you can, you should pick amend the budget and research grants, but as you can see, we were a bit unlucky with the RNG in terms of the Congress, so we cannot pick them right away. We'll be able to pick them in a little bit after a couple more small lobbying efforts, probably. Okay, now we can pick amend the budget and research grants, so let's go on and do that. And let's keep picking a small lobbying effort, because we need to keep the Congress happy. And at this point, we're also going to upgrade our T1 MIO. We need to do this from time to time, another very, very fun part of that amazing update. And there we go. 100% war tension means it's time to move to Europe. Not yet joining the war, but almost. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to ask the United Kingdom to join the Allies. They will accept. And now we can start moving our divisions. Of course, we don't want to join their war yet. So in this way, Germany cannot intercept our divisions while we move to the United Kingdom. At this point, I would also start planning an invasion of France, because by the time we get to the UK, sadly, France will no longer be France, it will be occupied by Germany, and so we will need to plan a D-Day to get to Normandy. We're going to do this even a bit for fun in a more historical way. So let's plan an invasion of Normandy from the southern coast of England. So we start from here and we go for groups of 4 and we go for something like these. Now these Marines are amazing, so they will destroy the German divisions in this naval invasion. Now for what concerns the tanks, we're going to assign them just behind the Marines and the other divisions anywhere you want in the UK, just as long as they are ready to move to Germany and France when the time comes. We're also going to make sure to deploy all planes, and we're going to assign all planes to the airfields in the UK. Now, in terms of the navies, feel free to do things differently. It's not mandatory that you manage them exactly as I do. I just show you the easiest possible way to do this. Not the best way to manage the navy, but the easiest. So we're going to split the entire navy into 2 fleets. I'm going to create a new theater. Actually, we're going to split them in a balanced way, in this way. And then we're going to assign them to convoy escort to all of the regions, sea regions in which we think our supplies will move through. So probably something like this. As for the other navy, we're just going to move them to the southern coast of England and they will support our naval invasion. This is the easiest way to manage the navy against Germany, in my opinion. Now we also want to do something in terms of buildings. We are going to build railways from the capital of Washington to this place here, Norfolk, because these supplies to Europe will go from here, but we need a connection between our capital and this place in order to benefit fully from the supplies. So we want to build the railways and we also want to prioritize them above other constructions. Now, to easily manage your planes during the war, I suggest you assign them all to the Marines. In this way, they will support the Marines during the naval invasion, and then they will spread automatically in the best possible airfields in France. Okay, France is down. Actually, the timing is perfect in this case, because probably the Germans will not have much time to prepare the defense, since France just capitulated. You know what, let's pretend the Germans did a bit better and took France down a bit earlier. I want to make this a little bit more challenging, so let's just give them some time to prepare for our naval invasion. Okay, I'm going to assume that the Germans did prepare for our naval invasion now. So we will make a save and we will finally join the war. Okay, so at this point we want to join wars. We offer this to the UK, they will accept. We want to start preparing our fleet for naval invasion support, and right away we want to trigger our naval invasion of Normandy. We're also going to change something in terms of production. We bring the artillery back down to 5, and we're going to bring a T1 upgraded to a total of 50 factories. The rest goes to F2 fighters. Let's make sure that we have the rest first. We're also going to pick war bonds because it's amazing. And let's see how D-Day goes. Okay, they are defending and they must have a fair amount of divisions because our Marines are amazing. So only 60. It doesn't matter, they would be destroyed in any case. Okay, now after disembarking, what we want to do here is we want to take some land, but we don't want to take Paris. Taking Paris will recreate France. And we're going to wait a little bit for that, because here we have 2 easy encirclements against the Germans, and we want to take advantage of that. What we don't want to do here is we don't want to run out of supplies, and in order not to run out of supplies, we need to connect to this railway center, let's say. So we need to take... something like this would be ideal to maintain the supplies. Let's also start sending our tanks over. And always pick the military doctrines. The next 2 are particularly important, so whenever you unlock them, pick them immediately. Now, what we want to do with our tanks is we want to cut off Germany completely. And Vichy France is something like their puppet, but it's not in the war, so the encirclements like this will work. So we're going to do this with our tanks to minimize casualties. Our casualties are very good for now, so let's see if we can keep it that way. I must say, sometimes taking this part of land is not as easy as it was here. And one thing which is very important is be careful to take these railways, because if you do not take the railways as I showed you, you will run out of supplies very easily in here. And without supplies, then this will be a big struggle. We can use the staff office plan to speed up the planning for our tanks, make it a little bit easier. We actually don't mind the Germans moving in here. The more divisions they have in here, the more they will lose to the encirclement. I think we can go, because we are starting to run a bit low on supplies, so it's time to take the next supply hubs. Okay, we took care of the people in Brittany. Okay, we finally got the first mini encirclement in here. And it's always nice to see German divisions getting completely destroyed. Now, we can rearrange the divisions a little bit. Of course, here we have another easy encirclement to get. So let's go on and get it. We can probably start this push. This is a much easier push. Once you have supplies in here, the Germans will have absolutely no hope of surviving. And now we unlock this focus. We are slightly late, but as soon as you unlock the focus, you should immediately pick the decision. We get a very nice offensive and defensive bonus against Germany. So, of course, we want to pick it as soon as possible. Okay, what we're going to do next, so after you take this part of France, is we are going to take Paris. And taking Paris will make Vichy France disappear. So what we want to do is we want to have some divisions ready at the border with Vichy France. And these divisions will then cover the southern part of Germany here and defend against Italy, while we try to encircle all of the German divisions which remain in this area. We could go for something like this, for example. This would be ideal, and then from here we will try to get down to Switzerland. As for the event concerning Mexico, I suggest you embargo them and then you trade with them again when you get the next event. Okay, I would say we are pretty much ready for the offensive, so let's see how this offensive goes. Again, this is maybe the most difficult one against the Germans, but we have insanely good tanks. So despite the fact that they have a lot of divisions in here, you can see how quickly we are destroying them. And now, as Paris went down, we also got the southern part of France. So I'm going to use a fallback line with our army down here. And we're going to try to keep Germany away from Italy. Something like this. And hopefully they will get there in time. Okay, and this was a very successful push. The next one is more important, because with the next one, what we want to do is we want to cut off the German divisions in here. Hopefully they will be a lot. It's not always the case, but let's see. In any case, the important thing is we separate them from the rest of Germany and from Italy. So let's prepare with our tanks. Okay, second important doctrine. And if you have any free spare political power, what you can do is you can pick the domestic film industry, which will increase a little bit our war support. Our tanks are ready, so let's start this push before the Germans reorganize too much. But this is going exactly as planned. And there we go, we got the encirclement. And we don't necessarily want to push too much in there, so we are happy with this. What we want to do is we want to close this encirclement here and destroy everything in it. Very happy with what I'm seeing. A lot of Germans divisions destroyed in here too. Let's give a look at the casualties. 27,000 now. Against Germany, you cannot expect extremely low casualties, especially because we are also using Marines to attack, not only armored divisions. But we still are talking about 27,000 versus 1.4 million, so not bad, you know, not bad. Now, Germany is far from done, but it's time for us to focus on Italy. Italy is easier to take down, and not having to worry about Italy will be beneficial. So we are going to prepare our tank divisions and one of the defensive armies. And the primary goal is to cut off Germany from Italy. Make sure that Germany cannot send divisions to Italy. Okay, I think our tanks are ready, so let's go take care of Italy. Okay, this event usually happens quite a bit earlier, but whenever it happens, I suggest you demand compensation from Japan. No war, it's not time yet, we'll do it later. As you can see, usually Japan agrees and we get some extra political power. Okay, Italy is already in a civil war, so as expected, Italy is going down very quickly. Okay, now as the northern part of Italy is under control, we can start assigning our defensive army to it. And we can use tanks to take care of the rest of Italy, the southern part of Italy. You know, you usually have to go all the way to Palermo to end the war. Okay, as you complete this research, it means we can design our new tanks. So let's go on and do that. And we can now make our T2 design, which is going to be this one. We're going to start producing it, which will mean importing a lot more steel, but we can afford it, so that's okay. We also need to make some changes to our medium tank. We want to bring the engine to 11 to match the speed of our other tank. It's up to you whether you want to upgrade the MIO or not, because breakthrough and reliability are not super important on flame tanks. I would just do it in this case. We're also going to start producing mechanized, and we're going to adjust the production a little bit, in the sense that we are going to assign all factories to mechanized, and we're going to bring down the production of F2 to 25. Okay, now when Mexico asks to join the Allies, I would accept that. It's more convenient for us. The more people are in the Allies, not for this war, but for something else that we will see later. So let Mexico join the Allies. Okay, and Italy should be completely down. That's perfect. Now we can rearrange our armored divisions, because of course it's time to take down Germany. And this can be a little bit challenging, but we actually made the setup very well. So taking down Germany from now on shouldn't be the hardest thing. What we're going to do is we're going to get a couple more encirclements on the way to Berlin. And by the time we get to Berlin, Germany will be completely broken. For the first one, I would say we could go for something like these. The idea would be to encircle all of their divisions in here. Now, by the way, when you defeat Italy, now it's mostly part of France, but Regno del Sud is the puppet that you get automatically when the civil war in Italy arises. And this puppet is usually a subject of the UK, as you can see. Now, with most countries, when you defeat Italy, you get the Regno del Sud as your own puppet. But when we do this as the United States, this puppet is a puppet of the United Kingdom instead, so it's not our puppet. However, this is not a bad thing, and you will see how and why a bit later. Actually, this will be a secret for the next video, but you can start thinking about why it's a good thing that it's a puppet of the UK and not our puppet. Ready. Let's see if someone guesses correctly in the comments. Again, they have a lot of divisions with entrenchment, and once again, we do not care because our tanks are really, really amazing. Look at this. It's like pushing the weakest country in the world, and it's actually Germany, which at this point of the game, it's likely the strongest country. Now, as you can see, we are trying to avoid this area, which is heavily fortified. So if we can avoid pushing here, it's probably better. We can go for Hanover and Frankfurt. The secret to pushing any enemy in this game is good armor, divisions, air support, and supplies. With that, nothing can stop you. And with this push done, it's time to encircle the divisions up there. As we do that, we can also start going around and a bit closer to Berlin. Now the German divisions are getting smaller in size and in numbers. Okay, as you unlock heavy bombs, you can start designing an upgraded version of our CAS, which uses, in fact, heavy bomb blocks instead of small bomb bays. And you can also take the chance to upgrade the MIO. You can tell that the German army is destroyed because they don't have divisions anymore. Berlin is here, and there is a Hungarian division protecting Berlin instead of German divisions. Okay, so at this point, I would say it's time to push for Berlin. We can start to push already because, again, they don't have divisions, so we can just speed this up a bit. Okay, in this case, Germany took all of Denmark. Sometimes they don't. Actually, usually they didn't. And after the last patch, they sometimes do take all of Denmark under their control. That's okay. It doesn't change too much. It will take a little bit longer to go all the way up there. Okay, now it's time for basically the last push of the war. The war is basically already won, but what we're going to do is we're going to push for these important victory points in here. And they will be decisive, although we also need to take Vienna to actually end the war. At this point, if you're in a hurry, you can also just rush the victory points because they will not have enough divisions to stop you. Well, they are completely falling apart, of course.
Attention.
if we can get easily to Vienna. Okay, we're about to get to Vienna, and taking Vienna should end the war. Now, I would always recommend making a save just before ending the war. You never know. I mean, there isn't that much that we can do. We are very satisfied with the total war score. Very, very satisfied with the casualties. So let's take a look at this before we end the war. 42,000 casualties in World War II with a naval invasion of Germany, and against Germany especially. These are stats which would be good against the Allies, and the Allies are much weaker than Germany. So insane stats. 42,000, and we cause about 4 million. So let's make a save, and let's officially end the war. That's it. Now, peace conference time. Now, what we want to do in the peace conference is we want to puppet, ideally, all of Germany. And then if we have any spare points, we can use them to puppet also Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria. But the priority is Germany. They have the best resources and in industry. So, of course, it's worth doing so. And, well, I will skip the peace conference for you mostly, but the other thing we want to do is, after puppeting them, we want to take the war reparations, but we don't want to take resource rights, because with free trade, resource rights are very bad. So we're going to take war reparations and then maybe some of their navy. You can also take Albania, depends on how many points you have left at the end of the war. So I think we got everything we had to take, so we puppeted most of them. We took war reparations from everyone, and we took everybody's navies as well. Especially the German navy and the Italian navy are not that bad. So we're happy with this. We can confirm and exit. And that's it. So as you can see, we took a large part of Europe under our control as puppets. And Italy is a puppet of the UK. Now, this is the end for today's video. This video is probably already quite long. The entire setup and then World War II is challenging. So the next episode, though, it's very important. Now, I know you're used to my runs continuing, but the next part of this run is still going to be a country guide. It's still going to be very detailed. I don't want to give you too many hints, but I would like you to guess what we are going to do. Let me tell you this. It's a good thing that Italy is a puppet of the UK, and we are not going to be friends with the Allies forever. So that's all the hints that I'm giving you. Let's see if you can guess what's going to happen. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching. So make sure not to miss the next video, the next episode. And if you enjoyed this one, please do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps, and it's rewarding for me. I put a lot of effort and time into these country guides. I hope you enjoyed this country guide. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Also, if you have any suggestions on how to further improve it. I think it's pretty well optimized, but there is always room for improvement. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for watching, and bye bye.